If you want to create an incredibly profitable online business this year, there are 10 keys that you really, really need to follow so that you can generate that incredibly profitable online business this year. Okay, so here's the thing. Most people do this process wrong, and it shows in their top and bottom line. So they never get to that lifestyle that they're seeking in creating one of these online businesses. Well, my mission is to help you get there. And so what I've done is that I have put together a list of 10 of the keys that you should definitely follow. If you don't follow these, your business probably won't get there as fast, and you probably won't get as profitable, because millions of people want to start an online business, but most won't. It's not that they fail. It's that they never start the business. They never get to the point where they're able to actually sell something. So what I'm going to say to you is a little bit controversial. A lot of people teach exactly the opposite. Many of them are trying to sell you something. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm trying to sell you on becoming a better business person as quickly as possible. So what I'm going to teach you comes from experience, not only doing this myself, but in coaching thousands of people to do this. All right. So here you go. 10 keys. Number one, in starting an online business, if you want it to be profitable and you want to get there quickly, there's only 2 things that matter. Everything else should be ignored. I'll tell you what those 2 things are in just a moment. So you don't need to start off by creating an entity. So you don't need a corporation, you don't need an LLC, you don't need anything. You don't need to go out and come up with office space. You don't need a business license. You don't need a logo and, quote, branding. You don't even need to figure out what technology you're going to use. You don't need to figure out what courses you should take or high-end programs you should be part of it. All of those, you can ignore them for now. We will get there. We will figure out your entity. We will get your business license. We will figure out your technology, and everything is like that. But you start by doing 2 key things, and just those 2. You ignore everything else. Those 2 key things are, number 1, figuring out what you're going to sell. And by the way, there's a sub-part of this, and that is who you're going to sell it to. Who will buy that thing that you're going to sell? Number 2 is list building. Those are the only 2 things that matter right out of the gate. None of that other stuff. All that is a distraction that costs you money and derails you from the process of figuring out what you're going to sell and building a list so you've got somebody to sell it to. So we are going to get those other things done, but not right now. Okay. Number 2, you need to carve out time to work on this business. Now, I want to point out something. The more time you carve out to work, the better. I also want to point out something else. Notice that I didn't say time on your business. I said work time. Work time is a different thing than study time. So this isn't time going through a course, and it's not time to be researching. This is actual time that you spend where you will work on doing the things that create your business. Here's what most people do. They buy a course and they're spending, I don't know, a couple hours a week going through the course, and they never actually work on the stuff that builds their business. They spend all their time learning, and they get to the end of the course and they say, well, I thought I would have a whole bunch of money and I haven't got anything. It's failed. Well, the reason it failed is because you didn't do any work. All you did was study. Ideally, you're spending a nice chunk of time. Now, I realize that some people have got jobs and families and everything else like that. You got a whole bunch of other obligations. I cannot imagine starting an online business without spending at least 2 hours a week, ideally 2 hours a day, ideally 5 hours a day. But if you can't do that, a minimum of 2 hours a week, if you cannot devote 2 hours a week towards building your business, probably you don't belong in a business right now, because you're not going to get there unless you're spending time doing that. Now, in addition to that 2 hours, you're going to need study and research time. Those tasks still need to be done. They're just not part of that time that you're spending on working on your business. That's the key. You got to work. Okay, number 3, put a date on your calendar. It's your launch date. This is the day that I'm committing to have everything done so that I can launch on this date. If you don't do this, what will happen is 6 months from now, you'll still be trying to figure out how to do things. Deadlines drive action. Put a deadline on the calendar and go make that happen. It's probably about 3 to 5 months out. That's about how much time it takes, even if you're working a bunch of hours a day, to get this process right. The less hours, farther out. But don't say it's going to be in 2 weeks, because you're not going to get an online business done in 2 weeks. Okay. About 3 to 5 months out is a good date. Okay. Number 4, focus on marketing. What I find is this: almost everyone who wants to start a business is really good at, they have a passion for teaching people or coaching people or trying to make money quickly or whatever it is. And what ends up happening is they tend to work on all that stuff. Hey, I'm going to spend 6 months putting together the perfect course. And they've never even thought about, much less done any marketing. Marketing is the most important thing if you're trying to start an online business. Your course can come later. All your other pieces can come later, because you've got to nail the marketing. If you don't nail the marketing, you're not going to sell anything. You can nail the marketing and have a pretty good course and be incredibly successful. If you have a great course and bad marketing, you will not be successful. The focus has to be on marketing. If you're going to take a course on anything, take it on marketing, not on how to create a course. All right. Number 5, absolutely choose a high margin business as you make this choice, not one of the many businesses out there that really are low margin. But then in addition to high margin, I strongly encourage you to choose one that also has a high probability of success. So there are some very high margin products and businesses that you can do that have a very low probability of success. You need that combination of high margin, so you're going to make a lot of money when you sell stuff. You don't have a lot of costs, and a high probability of success. So I strongly suggest that you avoid a number of the businesses that everyone's talking about and everyone's trying to get everybody to do. By the way, if everyone's talking about it, that means someone's trying to sell you something. They don't necessarily have your best interests in heart. They have their best interests in heart. So they want to sell you a program. By the way, that program is a very high margin training that they're giving you. They're going to charge you a lot. It'll have very little cost. So they're doing high margin, oftentimes to sell you on a low margin opportunity or a low probability of success opportunities. So I'm going to give you several businesses I strongly suggest you avoid doing if you want to build a successful, highly profitable online business. Number 1, drop shipping. Drop shipping is where someone buys it, you don't actually stock it, it's sitting in a warehouse owned by somebody else. You buy it from them and have them ship it to your customer, okay? Oftentimes this involves China or other countries overseas. It's not a good business. Why? Because 400 other people are buying the same product from that same person and having it drop shipped, which means that there's 400 people competing. It's a price game. Your margin will be very low, and you're relying on a really key person, that other company, to ship your stuff for you. And if they don't do a good job, your business is dead, no matter how well you do your side of the business. Number 2, Amazon FBA. fulfilled by Amazon. So in this, you're buying a bunch of stuff, sending it to Amazon. Amazon is fulfilling it. The problem with that is the same thing as the last one. There's 400 other people who are selling that exact same problem. Everyone's competing on price. You're not going to make much money. There are a few businesses where you've got something unique that no one else can copy, which is great until someone copies it. And then it's not my favorite business, okay? Some people have made a lot of money. Most people don't. They may sell a lot of stuff. There's a lot of people who say, hey, I've got a $3 million Amazon FBA business. You ask them how much they actually took home, and it's like, oh, they took home 50, 100,000. Why? Because all the cost goes into product and shipping. Okay, next, Fiverr and Upwork. So Fiverr and Upwork are two places where people sell services at very low cost. That's the key. They sell services at very low cost. So I can do this thing for you for $20. How much money are you going to take doing jobs for $20? Okay. It's usually not the best kind of business is to find something. Now, I'm a big fan of selling services, but not marketing them on Fiverr. Now, sometimes you can do an introductory program through Fiverr. I'll do this thing, and then later on, you're going to buy a $200 or $2,000 product from me. But in the meantime, it's usually not the best because it's not a very high profit margin. Next, YouTube channels. YouTube channels are all the rage. Everyone's saying, hey, you can make $10,000 a month just doing videos. Well, that's great. It's a very high margin business most of the time. The problem is it's a low probability of success business. Now, I'm not dissing YouTube channels. I'm got some YouTube channels going myself. I think everyone should be doing YouTube videos to help to market your business. But the challenge of this is that it's not as easy as they say it is to do. And many of the people who are doing it easily are at huge risk of a copyright violation or someone saying, hey, you can't use my picture in this thing. And consequently, the channel just goes away overnight. You know, you might be making $10,000 a month one month, and the next day someone puts in a copyright claim and your whole channel's dead. Okay. Next, being an influencer. This is especially among the millennials and the Generation Y, Generation Z people. Hey, they all want to be an influencer. Hey, I'm going to put together this huge thing, 100,000 followers, and people are going to pay me to promote my product to them. Great. What's the probability you're going to succeed with that? Your entire life becomes that. In fact, I have seen many times where someone is literally sitting there crying, and 5 minutes later they're, hey, life's so great. Look at me in my bikini, and I think you should buy this thing. It's not a very good life. In most situations, low probability, high profit, low probability. Okay, gig work. So driving for Uber, delivering packages, going and helping people put together their computer. All this gig work stuff is great. The problem is you're getting paid a very small amount per hour. It's usually not a very profitable business. Niche sites. Again, I like niche sites. I build niche sites myself. The problem is if you're not really good at writing and if you're not really good at SEO, your probability of success with a niche site is pretty low. So this is not on a absolutely don't do, but it's not my favorite. Most people cannot succeed with niche sites. You got to be a unique person with unique skills to do it. Now, okay, so I just showed you a bunch of businesses that I would not recommend you do. Let me show you some good ones that I really like. Number one, courses. Courses are, I think, the holy grail of online marketing. They are incredibly profitable. They are incredibly valuable. You're changing people's lives and helping people. And this can become millions of dollars if you want it to and you let it. Number two, coaching, where you're coaching people on how to do things, working with them to solve the problems in their life and solve those. Again, highly profitable, can be in a great business. The issue there is scaling. Next is consulting, where you take what you do and go in and teach them how to do that. So it's coaching is where you're working with them to accomplish it. Consulting, you're doing more of it. You're giving actually the knowledge of how to do that. Consulting can be, hey, there are companies who do billion-dollar consulting projects, okay? And so they can be big business if you decide to let it be. Membership sites. Okay, I love membership sites for some things. I hate membership sites for other things. just be aware that many people who are doing a membership site are doing a membership site because they can't get the guts up to ask people what they're actually worth. And I suggest a course is even better than a membership site, but I'm not dissing membership sites. They can be a great way for you to do things. SaaS. So software as a service. So if you're a programmer and know how to do this, SaaS is one of the best businesses that you can run right now. If you're not a programmer, you're probably not going to make money with SaaS unless you partner with somebody who is. High dollar services. So not putting together someone's computer for them, but if you can come in and create a funnel for them, if you can come in and create an entire business for them, those kinds of things where you're charging them in the tens of thousands of dollars, again, can be a great business for you. All right. So there I've given you some examples of either low profitability or low probability of success. And then I gave you a number of businesses that are high profitability and high probability of success. I suggest you choose that latter group as you choose what business you're going to do. All right. Next, number 6, key to success is to preserve your cash. So when you are doing an online business, cash becomes king. Most of the time we've quit our jobs, we've got X dollars in savings, and we've got to stretch that savings as long as we possibly can until we're bringing in revenue to do that. The challenge is a lot of people go dump a lot of money right at first, and so then they've exhausted all their savings, and the only thing that's left is how big a credit limit they can have on their credit card. And you quickly run out of that, and you run out of cash, and you have to go back and get a real job because you don't have cash enough to be able to live. And so I recommend you do everything you can to preserve cash. So among other things, I recommend you actually make some personal changes in your life. So I don't recommend that people who are trying to start an online business eat out a lot. When you're just starting, eat at home. Every time you go out and spend money to eat out, you've just used your entire food budget for a day of eating at home. Just eat at home. And yeah, it's a little harder. You actually have to figure out what you want to eat. You have to do that when you go to a restaurant anyway, because I mean, how many times have we all had discussions? Where do you want to eat? Well, I don't want to go there. I want to go there. You spend just as much time figuring out where you're going to go as you spend eating, as you spend figuring out what you're going to cook. Just eat at home. Okay. You don't have to eat ramen, but don't eat steak either. Okay, next, minimize your transportation costs. So if you've got a fancy, expensive car where you're paying high monthly payments, pay it, sell that thing and get a car that gets you around, or start taking other modes of transportation. So you start taking those transportation things out there. You may want to move to cheaper housing. If you got a big rent payment every month, you may want to move to a lower rent payment. Why? Because if you can cut your rent payment from $2,000 to $1,000 a month, that means that your savings last $1,000 every month longer. And you may want to think about that. Not sure if you should move back in with your parents, but you may want to go after cheaper housing. This is not the time to take fancy vacations, even though I know it's stressful and a fancy vacation would really, really help. When you're just getting started, that's not the time to go dump a bunch of money on a fancy vacation. Go to the local swimming pool. Do a staycation. Go out, walk in the woods. You'll recreate yourself just as well without spending a ton of money. You can have all of those things later, just not when you're just getting started. From a business point of view, how do you go about preserving cash from a business point of view? Well, you don't need office space in most cases. There are whole companies that don't even have an office, okay? You don't want to hire a bunch of people that don't directly contribute to revenue. So I'm a huge fan of hiring people the dollars you spend them goes directly towards building your revenue. Those are great. If you hire a coach and then sell that coach's services to other people, that's a revenue generating person. If you got somebody just to do your book work for you, that's a revenue generating person. Be careful with revenue generating people as much as possible. Don't go out and buy an expensive package that's costing you $300, $400, $500 a month to do things that you're not even going to use for months and months and months. That's just wasted money. You may get into those, and you probably will get into those down the road, but go get some revenue first and then go into those fancy programs. Well, how do I do it for cheap? There are ways to do it for cheap. Wait for the expensive until you got a business that deserves it. All right. Tip number 7, avoid butterflies. What's a butterfly? It's one of those things that comes flapping by and you go, oh, pretty butterfly. Maybe I should go do that instead of the thing that I am doing right now. And here's what happens, especially in the online marketing world. We're on everybody's list. And every week something else comes out and you're getting emails from everybody about, you should go do this. And this new technique that somebody's discovered that makes them instant millionaires. And it's like, number one, instant millionaires does not happen. And you need to put your foot down and say, this is what I am doing. Not any of that other stuff I'm just going to ignore. And so you just go unsubscribe from all those other lists. You don't pay attention to ads that show up in your social media. In fact, you may want to just get rid of social media because that's a distraction that causes you to do things. And just remember, there is no get rich quick. Everything that's worth it takes work and dedication. You're not going to get there with the latest thing that comes flying by that looks real pretty, but probably is not going to generate the revenues you're hoping it will be. Now, when I said preserve cash, one of the main reasons we preserve cash is to be able and willing to advertise. What happens with so many people is they bootstrap, they've spent all their money, they cannot afford to do anything to advertising, but advertising is oftentimes the fastest route to success, and you need to get good at it. It's a great way to build an audience and build sales that you simply cannot get in any other way. I strongly recommend you carve out some money for advertising. The more, the better. Be wise in this process. Don't go spend it all in one fell swoop. Be wise, test, learn how to do it well so you do it well. So, and focus on preserving cash so that you can do that. And then as you start making sale, carve out a piece of every sale to go towards advertising towards your next sale. Okay, I just made a $10,000 scale. Great, let's all go out to dinner. Okay, no, let's take $8,000 and put it towards profits and $2,000 and put it towards advertising. Or maybe the other way around. Okay, number 9, learn how to DIY, do it yourself, most things. So I was talking to somebody yesterday who had spent probably $100,000 or more, hiring people to do a bunch of things. They hired somebody to do their branding. They hired somebody to do their website. By the way, one other thing that you don't really need right up front is you don't need a website. You're going to get to building web pages later on, but you probably don't need to go drop $20,000, $30,000 on a killer website because that's probably not how you're going to be selling your stuff anyway. Most people who start an online business throw away their website after a few months because they started by building the website. Start by figuring out what you're going to sell and build your list, and then build the pages that support that process. So you don't need to hire out most things. You can figure out how to do it yourself. And many of those services that you do don't ROI. Someone's got a really good line about how they can help you with X or Y or Z, and you buy into that, and then they go off and they use a bunch of money, and they probably maybe even do a good job of delivering, but the things they deliver don't put money on your bottom line. Great example of this. I love good branding. Most branding consultants are not worth anything. They're going to give you the color scheme you should be using and the language that talks about your avatar and all these different things like that. 90% of that is worthless. Learn how to market. The branding stuff will come later on. And I know there are some of you who are really cringing right now. It's what I believe because I've seen it happen over and over again. Most branding consultants are not worth it. Number 10, commit yourself. This is huge. Say, this is who I am. I am now a course creator on this particular subject. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to ignore everything around it. This is what I'm doing instead. And this is more important than going to that movie, than going to the beach, than going to the bar with my friends, than going out to eat, than driving in nice fancy cars that everybody thinks I'm rich even though I'm struggling with cash. This is more important than all those things because I am literally creating my future. I'm hustling now so that I get freedom later, not the other way around. Now, I like to over-deliver, so I'm going to give you 11 instead of 10. Find a model. Find someone who has done what you want to do, and more importantly, is actively doing it right now. Here's the problem. A lot of people study something a little bit, get a little bit of knowledge, and immediately become the world's expert and go out and try to teach everyone else how to do it. They've never actually done it themselves. That is not the model you want to follow. You want to follow someone who's actually put in the blood, sweat, and tears, learned how to do it so they can tell you, this is what to avoid, this is what to do. You need that person giving you advice in your life, not the person who does it theoretically. And then you model. That's the person you buy the course from. That's the person you buy the coaching from, so that you're getting expertise from the right person who's actively done it and is actively still doing it, so their finger is still on the pulse. There you go. 11 things that you should do, keys to running a successful online business. I hope this has been incredibly helpful for you. Ignore all the people who try to sell you to do things in a different order. Hey, you should do branding, or you should do it. You should go do a trademark and do all these things. You'll get to that later. Just don't start with that, because it uses your cash. It uses your time. It takes your attention off the most important thing. The most important thing is marketing and figuring out what you're going to sell. Then do everything stepwise from there. Can you tell I have an opinion on this? I've seen so many people never get their business off the ground and spend their entire life savings getting there because they get off and they do things not in the order that I just talked about. And it kills their business. I'm trying to get you to succeed. You're building your future. Follow these steps and it'll help. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. This is Don Crowther saying, just go do this stuff.